What would you like to see the FBI actually investigate? Like, here's what I would like to see the FBI investigate, and I'm wondering if any of that even came up or talked about. How actively are they investigating the list of names from Epstein? How much are they investigating what happened with Epstein? You know, Ghislaine right now, story came out yesterday. She's worried because she told on a couple of the people that are within the jail she's worried for her life. Who knows if she's saying that or somebody else saying it on her behalf, because this week is the week where she's going to be meeting the St. Peter to decide whether she's going to hell or heaven. Who knows what's going to happen to her this week. There's a lot of people in that world that can predict someone's lifespan. It's actually very good technology they have. How much of the investigation into Epstein is currently happening, or when you guys were in there, that was a guy that they were looking into?
I don't have any personal knowledge of that, but I would bet not a whole lot. And you guys probably know this, but who was the prosecutor assigned to Ghislaine's case? James Comey's daughter. In law enforcement, I learned quickly that there's not
That's crazy.
There's not very
Hold this up real quick.
There's not very much coincidence. I'm at a point, especially combined with my faith, I don't believe in coincidence at all. I think it's all happening for a reason. And the FBI and Epstein, I mean, why is that story not front and center until we find out about every single person on that list?
Yeah.
But we don't ever hear about it.
Nope. Yep. And mind you, they took you off of that type of investigation. Like, you were investigating those type of cases, right? And they're like, no, go after somebody that was on a bus that wore a MAGA hat.
Check this out. The Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey is one of the lead prosecutors in the case against Miss Maxwell, and had been due to try Epstein prior to his death in 2019. The daughter of the former FBI, James Comey, is the head of the SDNY Violent and Organized Crime Unit and has been with the office since 2014. And by the way, isn't the Comeys very good friends with the Clintons?
You think so?
No, I'm curious.
I know he was wearing the Clinton gear in 2016. He was taking pictures. I don't know if he's got a relationship.
Oh yeah, and him with the who was it? Who was the Attorney General? Loretta Lynch. They took the charge from gross negligence to extreme carelessness, and he was just like, yeah, whatever, bro. Yeah, exactly. Well, dude, I agree with you 100%, bro. It's like I believe in God, and I think God, chose you to be this person. But these people, bro, they're so intertwined, and it's so like that's why my question earlier. I'm like, is it going to change? I think it would take an act of God, because these people are so.
Let's stay on this, though.
There.
Let's stay on this. I actually want to know this a little bit more. Rob, if you can pull up this shirt for some people that want to buy this shirt, we want to make sure we give a shout out to the folks that want to buy this shirt that James Comey was wearing with.
Where is it?
We're great marketers, and we have to, as capitalists, if there's great shirts, we want to help contribute towards people buying these shirts. So, this is James Comey's Instagram account in 20. I don't know what the exact timeline was. This is on Instagram. When he posted this, the exact date is it 2018 or something like that? He posted this, elect more women. I think that was a Hillary Clinton
August
shirt.
of 2020.
There you go. So that's that shirt. But going back to Epstein, that is something people want to know.
Yeah.
That is something people want to know. People want to know what's going on there. Who's behind it. So maybe let me ask the question a different way. So you guys were both FBI agents. If the FBI actually wanted to investigate and look into what happened with Epstein, as former agents, how would you go about doing that to get the intel, to find out exactly who was on the list, who did what? Do we have enough information? Do we have enough access to stuff where we could get that kind of stuff? Who would you talk to? Would you go to Ghislaine? What would be the procedures to learn more about what's going on with Epstein?
Well, I think from what we do know, I mean, there's enough reasonable suspicion and probable cause on many people on that list where you can open at a minimum a preliminary investigation, which opens up some of the FBI's capabilities in investigating people. And I think very rapidly you would be able to open most of those into a full investigation. And then, so the FBI is very powerful. There are some wizards in the FBI when it comes to technology or investigating or just digging into a case to get as close to the truth as they can. And the way the Epstein case has been treated and essentially brushed under the rug should be alarming to everyone, because that should be as big of a case in the public sphere as any case that has been in the last 10 years at least, because of the type of people on that list and the type of bizarre things that have happened along the way.
Yeah.
But give me steps. Like, for what I'm looking for is the following. So, for example, I come and I say, listen, guys, here's what's going on. I've had a person living in this house that I own for the last 3 years. They paid rent for 2 years. The last 12 months, they've not paid rent. I'm trying to ask him to leave. They're saying they don't have to leave. Every time I go to the door, they don't even open the door. They're doing this, they're doing that. The house is trash. As a lawyer, what are my next steps on what to do? You would say, step number one, we have to apply for this. Step number two is we have to send this letter. We have to document this. You need to show this. Do you have that? Do we have to take pictures? We have to send this to this person. Once we get this back from the city, I want to know steps. So if right now, say Chris Ray changes and it's a new guy comes in, okay? And you are now replacement for Chris Ray, minus the $9.2 million income that you made this year. You didn't make that money. But you become the new Chris Ray. Okay, and one of your top things you want to find out about is parents in America have concerns with pedophilia, okay, child porn, all of that, which, by the way, I think at one point I read an article in 2016, FBI was the biggest distributor of, whatever access to child porn that they had. There was some article that was written about that. Rob, if you want to look for this. But say you have two things on your list. One is child porn, getting to the bottom of who's doing that, okay? And then the other one is Epstein. How would you go about doing it if you are now Chris Ray today?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that they have to avoid the temptation that they had with the Trump investigation, where they look to headquarters and start a task force there for people who haven't investigated crime for a very long time. I would get somebody like Garrett, who has no connection there, to do the work that he's been doing his whole career.
From the outside, not from the inside.
No, from the inside.
Inside.
There are investigators who have experience.
Yeah.
So, and there's some great investigators who know that's all they've done for decades. Yeah. So I think staffing is number one. You can't just say, well, this guy, he's in charge of this division, so he must know what to do. That's not how it works. It has to be the guy who you don't know his name because he spent his entire career arresting bad guys. Actually, functionally, what you would have to do is you'd have to either consider reopening the Epstein investigation or starting anew. If it was my case, I'd be probably arranging for some sort of a proffer with Maxwell, where she'd be queen for a day and reveal what she could to me, and then go off of there and start knocking on doors for the individuals she names, because those are people that are in positions of power and influence. They have a lot to lose. They will want to cooperate fully with their own proffers if they can, and you're just really going to have to, at the end of it, pick your snitch.
What would you do?
Similar like that. I mean, I guess if it was handed to me and said, all right,
you're the guy.
Your turn, take over. First would be a wide sweeping search of the FBI system on everything related to Epstein. And this is how I always worked my cases anyways. I would get all the background information, or as much as possible, that already existed in the FBI system. And, shockingly enough, there's a lot in the various type of systems that the FBI has. And with a case like that, I mean, there's so many people involved, so I would start, I'm certain the FBI has some information. Then I'm going to start going for each name that's in the case file, no matter how thinly associated to it. I'm going to dive into each one of those to find out more what the FBI already knows. And then once I have as much knowledge as I can about what has already been investigated, I'll go forward from there. And I would imagine there's enough information to investigate more people involved, the prison where Epstein committed suicide, and whatever else. And then we have the overseas connections and the money too. That's a big one. Follow the money. It's always money. Money. And Epstein is a money guy. Most of what I know of the Epstein case came from Martyr Made podcast. He has done a really good long form series on Epstein, 3 parts. If people are interested in this case, listen to those. It's like I said, there's no coincidence in law enforcement. The Epstein case is a primary example of that, going back historically to who he was, how he got started, his connections with the Clintons, going forward to his death. And so there's a lot of meat on the bone with that one. And so only knowing.
Okay, and I'm sorry, go ahead. Only knowing
what we know in the public sphere, I mean, that's one layer. And so there's a lot more beneath that.
And do you have access to enough intel, data, contacts, relationships that you could actually get to the bottom of what happened with Epstein?
If I had access to FBI systems?
If you are the director of FBI and one of your top 3 issues was, I really want to find out what the hell happened with Epstein, do you have enough access to find out exactly what happened and come out with the intel on that?
Maybe not exactly what happened, but pretty dang close.
And how long would it take you to be able to give that report to the American people?
Case like that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how many people get brought in, and I mean, and then also you're getting with finances. You have to do subpoena bank records, and there's a lapse in time there. I think you could probably do a pretty good job in a year.
Pretty good job in a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so within a year you could get that intel to us.
Especially if you had, I don't know, five really staunch case agents and an intel analyst or 2, and that's all you worked on.
This is why he could never be a manager, because he wants to investigate perhaps the biggest, most important case in the country and says, I can do it with 5 people.
If I had 5
a manager
ones,
would want 500.
Yeah, that's true.
So okay, let me ask another question. So you guys are on the inside, you've seen what's going on. What do you think the FBI should be investigating today? Like, if they were to truly do their job of what their job is for, that we as taxpayers pay them to do, what do you think are the top 3 things the FBI should be investigating today?
Top 3. I think fentanyl coming across the border. I know we have the DEA, but FBI, that's a big part of what the FBI does because cartels and whatnot. I think that's a big one because it actually impacts the American people everywhere. Let's see, what else? Election interference, actual investigating it. The FBI, it's what one of our purview is, but I've not really seen much actual investigation in it. Instead, the FBI is interfering with elections themselves, so that's a problem. And then 3rd, probably like gang violence and that type of thing, because that has only exploded more since COVID.
Really? Gang violence has exploded?
It's gone up.
Okay. So 3, are you on the same top 3 as well as him?
I mean, I would put child pornography.
Oh, there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's you could assign every agent to child pornography all the time.
Let me fix my list. I got to add that in because
It's
he's
that
right.
rampant,
Yeah.
is what you're saying?
Can you unpack that? Like, for some of us, we're not in your world. We don't know how bad it is. All we do is we either read about it or we don't read about it. That's the one, right?
Yep.
2016, FBI ran website sharing thousands of child porn images. This is from USA Today. This is the one I was talking about, 2016. Okay. So the operations whose detail remained largely secret was at least the 3rd time in recent years that FBI agents took control of a child pornography site but left it online in an attempt to catch users who officials said would otherwise remain hidden behind an encrypted and anonymous computer network. In each case, the FBI infected the site with software that punctured that security, allowing agents to identify hundreds of users. The Justice Department acknowledged in court filings that the FBI operated the site known as Playpen February 20th, March 4, 2015. At the time, the site had more than 215,000 registered users. Wow. And included links to more than 23,000 sexual explicit images and video of children, including more than 9,000 files that users used to download directly from the FBI. Some of the images described in court filings involved children barely old enough for what?
Yeah.
Kindergarten. The approach is a significant departure from the government's past tactics for battling online child porn, which is instructed that they should not allow images of child being sexually assaulted to become public. The Justice Department has said that children depicted in such images are harmed each time they are viewed, and once those images leave the government's control, agents have no way to prevent them from being copied and recopied to other parts of the internet. So, okay. This irritates and frustrates a lot of different people. All you have to be is be a parent. You got 4 kids. I don't know how many kids you have. 2 kids. Boy, girl. What's the
Boys.
Boys. Okay. I got 4 kids. Boy, girl, girl. And as a father, you see this. One, you're paranoid naturally. The level of paranoia goes up the day you have a kid. But why is there not a deeper investigation into issues like this?
I think, and he worked it, so he might be able to talk to it more, but I think it goes back to what we were talking about with the stats. The FBI seizes a site like this, and instead of shutting it down and trying to get into another site, which they can do, this says software, another way it can be done is if you catch someone who created such a site and now you give them a deal or turn them into a CHS and say, give us access, and then the FBI can take it over that way as well. But instead of just shutting it down and moving on to the next one to try and shut down the next one, they leave it open so then they can get more users into the site, so then they can slap them with possession of child porn instead of digging deeper. This is where you need your good knuckle-dragging investigators who are out there doing the grunt work. Because, okay, yes, possessing child porn is horrible. It's awful. Yes, arrest those people when you can, but don't allow them to access a site that you're in control of so you can do it. Go find the people who are producing that type of child porn and get them. The users and possessors of it are going to be able to find it. So yeah, it's like whack-a-mole when it comes to possession of it. But seizing a site and allowing people to use it, I think goes to that stat padding and honestly goes to a particular type of evil that the FBI is participating in.
I think there's a cultural component to this that there's not a lot of appetite even from the public because it's so egregious and gross and we just don't think about it. I want you to have your press conference where you put a dozen guns and a big pile of dope on the table and all the money and say, look, the FBI is doing a good job. I can live with that as a citizen because good job, cops. But if you start talking about images of 6-month-old babies being sodomized, which I've seen, that's not your reaction right there. That's not going to be good for my image, even if I'm talking about putting it. And that
I wouldn't want that job. Like I don't even want that visual.
I didn't want that.
What
image.
a freaking job!
But it is a necessary. Yeah. I'm going to stand in the breach, and I'm going to do that because it has to be done. And we need to have our lawmakers have the courage to stand up and pass the laws that are necessary to actually punish these guys. And look, the laws for federal child pornography creation, it's like 15 years for an image. It's significant. Show me the lawmaker that is going to be a nay vote on capital charges for possessing or creating child pornography.
Who would be though, left or right?
There's some judges that were arguing to lower the sentences because it's easier to access it than it used to be. So you should be a lower sentence.
Yeah, that should be irrelevant.
Yeah.
What's the criminal profile of these types of people? Obviously, these are absolute sickos, but is there some uniformity to actually who is watching this child perform?
I mean, for us, it was typically male, almost universally male. I think I talked to some more experienced investigators than me, and I had one female. It's that rare.
Predominantly male.
Predominantly male.
Age, race, anything.
It's all over. It's old creepy Chester the molester guy down to 18-year-old kid who's just starts on that path. And I remember seeing this explanation for it once where he you don't want to be sympathetic to this guy, but he explained it honestly. And he said, look, when I was 13 years old, I liked the 13-year-old girls. And then I was 15 years old, and it just froze. They got older, but I still liked the 13-year-old girls. And then I was 17 years old, and then she was 13 years old. And I was 20 years old, and she's still 13 years old. He's like, my preference for women never advanced with my age. And so you have these guys who are 18 that are dealing with that, and then just all the way up the gambit. And it's very common to have the hands-on offenders that are trying to, they rationalize in their head, well, I'm not hurting a child. I'm keeping these desires away by watching it, so I'm okay. And that's why you see all the time these guys, my theory is they have this red in their ledger that they feel so horrible about, which is why they're doing all this community engagement, and they're a deacon in the church, and they're a Little League baseball coach. I mean, they might be trying to actually find victims, but I think a lot of them just feel so bad about it that they think, I'm going to rack up as many wins as I can so this one blemish will be erased. But universally, they all confess. Just because it's ones and zeros for one part, they know they're caught. And then a lot of them just are honest, and they don't have a criminal background beyond that. That's it. But they're true. Every time an image is shared, that child is a victim again and again. It's always
horrible.
It's a terrible job to have. Someone's got to do it, It's like the job where in the military you have to go tell the family your son has died. Nobody wants that job. It's the worst job. And it has to be the right DNA wiring of a person with a gentle voice that comes in, that's understanding. Imagine every day. Today I have to do it to 4 people. Today I have to do it to 3 people. Today I have to do. Nobody wants that job. Someone's got to do it.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.